Today, we're going to see if Johnny Depp has done enough to prove his case. We're going to look at the jury instructions and we're going to look at what he's presented. And you're going to decide at the end of this video whether Johnny Depp has done enough to win. My name is Nate the Lawyer. If you are new here, we talk about the law and the facts. If you're about that life, don't forget to like this video, share this video, and subscribe to the channel. All right, so this is the action brought by Johnny Depp against Amber Heard for defamation, as you see here in Virginia court. So Johnny Depp is suing Amber Heard for this article in the Washington Post, which is an opinion piece. So generally, we're already going uphill because this is an opinion piece. It says right here, opinion. But Johnny Depp is suing for these three statements, particularly these two, that represent Johnny Depp as a domestic abuser or somebody who has abused his wife. So what does Johnny Depp have to do to win this case? Well, essentially, he has to prove all the elements for defamation, and he has to win the credibility battle. Now, when it comes to defamation, Johnny Depp has to prove all of these elements for him to be successful to win. But if he loses on one of these elements, he loses. So for Johnny Depp to first win the defamation claim, he has to win on every element. He can't afford to lose one. Then he has to win the credibility battle, showing that he is more credible than Amber Heard. Now, you guys have to understand this. This case is a classic he said, she said case, right? He's saying that he didn't abuse her. She's saying that she was abused. Now, Johnny wants to make Amber look as evil as possible, while making himself look like the charitable person. Here he is at a children's hospital visiting children in full costume for charity. This is what Johnny wants to portray their dynamic to be. Amber, evil, calculating. Johnny, good-hearted, noble. Again, to win the credibility game. See, if Johnny's able to win both, then he has a real chance of winning his defamation suit. Now, let's start with the credibility game. How is his lawyers trying to win the credibility game in this case? Well, again, remember I told you this was a he said, she said case. So Amber's got to be the devil. Johnny's got to be the angel. Now, to show that Johnny is the angel, they brought on his sister, they brought on his best friend to show that he's never done anything like this, to show that he is a good person. Even some of his other employees showed that, hey, in 20 years we've known him, he's always been lighthearted, he's never been violent. Again, bolster Johnny's credibility, show that he's not the monster that people think he is. Then they brought on some of Amber's ex-employees to show that she is the monster that they think she is. This woman said that Amber was hostile, angry, mean. That is what Johnny wants the jury to hear. They also brought on the concierge nurse, who essentially said the same thing. Johnny's a good guy, Amber is a little iffy. Again, these are people who were working with them, who were living with them. They all are saying the same thing. They all say Amber is a rage queen. She's angry, she's violent, she's off the hinge. That is the true Amber. And that's what Johnny Depp's legal team is trying to push. She was violent. And here are the pictures of her hitting Johnny and abusing Johnny. She cut off one of his fingers. In this relationship, she was the angry abuser. And even to that extent, they want to show that she's not authentic, that you can't trust her. She has no integrity. How? Because she said she was donating the $7 million divorce settlement to charity because she wanted to prove that she wasn't a gold digger. But come to find out, she didn't donate any of the money to the ACLU, as she said she would, or even to the children's hospital. Again, showing that you can't trust her. Her credibility is low. She says she's giving money to charity and hasn't given the money to charity. While on the opposite side, Johnny Depp is going to children's hospitals as Jack Sparrow. Last but not least, the evidence of the domestic violence incidents that Amber Heard claims that happened. For instance, she claims that she was injured. She claims that this was a DV incident. She claims that Johnny committed crimes against her, and that's how she can claim that she was abused. But even with that, they've shown that on December 15th, where she allegedly said she had these bruises, the next day she's on TV looking like this, not a bruise in sight. And everyone who was there that night, the 3 cops, or actually 4 cops who responded to the scene at 2 different times, saw absolutely no bruises, absolutely no evidence of domestic violence. And remember, there were 2 sets of cops there. And remember, cops went to the location 2 different times. Even the building manager said that he was 3 feet away from her that night. He looked directly in her eyes and he saw absolutely no injuries. Johnny's team is making the jury believe that she made this up, just to make Johnny look bad. Again, hitting her credibility hard. And then Dr. Curry explaining how all of this deception, all of this calculation, all of the things that Amber Heard was doing was all part of a bigger problem, is that she was mentally unstable and that this was part of her diagnosis. Exaggerating, being violent, being needy. Dr. Curry put it all together for the jury. And to even go further to the credibility issue, Dr. Curry said that Amber was faking PTSD. Dr. Curry said Ms. Heard did not have PTSD, and there were also pretty significant indications that she was grossly exaggerating symptoms of PTSD when asked about them. Again, this goes directly to her credibility. Is she reliable? Is she being authentic? So when it comes to he said, she said, the Depp team seems to have done a pretty decent job at laying out the claim that Amber is a horrible person and Johnny is a saint. And I think it's culminated in this one recording. Listen to this.
Have I ever been able to knock you off of your feet?
You started
Off your balance?
You started these things.
You're going to get up on the stand, Johnny, and say she started it? Really? I have never been able to overpower you. That's the difference between me and you.
Why did you try?
And that's the difference that the whole world and the jury and the judge will see, is that there is a very big difference between me and you.
So now, that recording did a lot to make the devil Amber and the Saint Johnny a reality for the jury, right? Even if you tell the jury, they're probably not going to believe you because I am a woman and you're a man. So we've looked at credibility and whether Johnny Depp's team has done a good job at really hurting Amber's credibility while bolstering his own. Now, remember, there were two things we had to prove. We first had to prove credibility and all the elements for defamation. So to do that, I looked at the Virginia model jury instructions. This is what the jury is going to be told about defamation and what the plaintiff has to do to prove it. So here, as you know, I like to go straight to the source, and this is what the jury is going to be told that they need to do to evaluate whether Johnny Depp is going to win this case. And I'm going to let you evaluate it as if you were a juror. So this is instruction 37.010. This is liability issues for public figures and not defamation per se. So we're going to look at all the elements of defamation. So Johnny Depp is a public figure. So let's read this part. It says, for use in cases involving a public figure, plaintiff, where the court has determined the statement is not defamatory per se. I have no evidence that shows that the court has determined that it is or is not. So we're just going to use the whole defamation scheme just in case. If Johnny wins this, he also wins defamation per se. So let's just evaluate them all. And cases where the plaintiff is a private figure. So this is not a case where Johnny Depp is a private figure. This is a case where Johnny Depp is a public figure. And that's why we're using these elements, because it's a public figure defamation lawsuit. So now that we know where we can find the elements of defamation in Virginia, what's the burden of proof? Well, in Virginia, the burden of proof is clear and convincing evidence. Instruction number 3.110, standard of proof, definition of clear and convincing evidence. The state says when a party has the burden of proving an issue by clear and convincing evidence, he must produce evidence that creates in your mind a firm belief or conviction that he has proved the issue. And this is essentially more than a preponderance of the evidence. Preponderance of the evidence is more than 50%. You have to show that you have more than 50% of the evidence helps you prove your case. And clear and convincing evidence is more than that. But it's less than beyond a reasonable doubt, which is the highest standard for criminal trials. So that's where Johnny's at. Johnny Depp has the burden of proving these issues by clear and convincing evidence. So here are the elements for defamation. And now what we're going to have to do is try to figure out, has Johnny Depp provided us enough evidence where we can find that he's met all of these elements by clear and convincing evidence. So let's start with the first element, false statement of fact. Again, the Washington op-ed that Amber Heard wrote, Johnny Depp is trying to prove that these three statements, especially these other two statements, were false statements of fact. Quote, 2 years ago, I became a public figure representing domestic abuse, and I felt the full force of our culture's wrath for women who speak out. Statement number 2, I had the real vantage point of seeing in real time how institutions protect men accused of abuse. The Depp's team is saying she is not a victim of domestic abuse. He never abused her, and that these statements particularly are calling him an abuser. So that's what makes them fake. So to show you that, we're looking at the jury instructions. Number 4 is it was false. So going right back to the jury instructions, they have this element as number 4, but whether the statement was false, they just put it was false. So again, we're back at this he said, she said, right? Was the statement false? He's saying it's false. She's saying it's not. How do you prove someone was not abused? Well, We go back to credibility again. Remember, Johnny Depp's team has worked on this credibility issue because they know this is going to be vital to the case. They have to prove he's telling the truth and she's lying, while Amber's team has to prove that he's lying and she's telling the truth. So we're going to be hearing that from her. But again, today we're talking about Johnny Depp's side. So what evidence has he put forward to show that she's lying while he's telling the truth? Well, Johnny Depp first has that. Remember, he had all those people saying how good-hearted, natured person he was and how great a guy he was. The angel. Johnny's an angel. While showing that Amber was a toxic mess and that she faked her injuries, right? That's how he's throwing shade at Amber. And then we had the credibility issues where she's lying about injuries. All these people who saw her that night said she didn't have any injuries. She's capable of lying to you and lying to officials like police officers and building managers. Like, she's lying about things that happened to her, and we can prove it. So here's a list of things that Johnny Depp team believes they have shown to prove that Amber is untrustworthy. First, that she has not given money to Children's Hospital after promising to give money to a children's hospital. That she admitted hitting Johnny Depp. That on tape, she's saying that the jury won't believe him, as you've heard. She's also faked domestic violence injuries. She cut off Johnny Depp's finger. She's mentally unstable and makes things up. And let's not forget about the poop on the bed. All this together, they're saying is enough to show that she is lying about what she said and that the statements that she made about being abused by Johnny Depp are in fact false. And that is the first element, or how they're attempting to prove the first element. Now, what about the second element? Are these statements about the plaintiff? Well, go back to the model jury instructions, and it says right here, it was about the plaintiff, talking about the defamatory statement. Well, in the op-ed post, Johnny Depp wasn't mentioned at all, but the ACLU, who co-wrote the article with Amber Heard, states that, yeah, the thing was about Johnny and everyone knew it. Check this out.
This document.
And is this one of the documents you reviewed in preparation for your deposition?
That's correct.
And what is it?
This is an article that was in US Today and specifically ties Amber's statements in her op-ed piece to Johnny Depp.
And when Jessica White says so much for not mentioning JD, what did she mean?
I speculate that she was saying that there were significant efforts made by Amber's attorneys to take out the references to Johnny Depp and her marriage, and yet nonetheless, people made that connection.
And in particular, the reporter for the USA Today took her to be referring to Johnny Depp when she spoke of being the victim of domestic violence, correct?
Correct.
So was the op-ed piece about the plaintiff? That's the evidence they provided. Again, is it clear and convincing? You have to decide. All right. So was it published to a third party? I think that's obvious. It was a opinion piece, an op-ed in the Washington Post. Millions of people read it. So yeah, it was published to a third party. I think that's a gimme. So whether it harmed his reputation, the jury instructions said the statement tends to harm reputation of the plaintiff as to lower their esteem of the community in order to deter others from associating or dealing with them. The statement makes the plaintiff appear odious, infamous, or ridiculous. So calling him a wife beater and, hurting his career, I think can tend to harm someone's reputation. Here's the Sun article where Johnny also sued the Sun about this headline. And here is Johnny Depp's agent explaining how his reputation in the film industry was harmed.
Is there any one specific litigation that you believe most significantly impacted on Mr. Depp's personal reputation no longer being a shroud of mystery and not visible to the public?
My opinion is that Amber's accusations would have had the most dramatic impact on his off-screen reputation. I'm not talking about any one specific accusation.
When you say Amber's accusations, what do you mean by that?
I mean the things that she's accused Johnny of doing, both that have been made public, by saying, I don't think filing for divorce would have any impact whatsoever. And I'm actually not familiar with the lawsuit to get the restraining order, so I don't know exactly what's in there. But if that was based on claims of or accusations of abuse, then that, in my opinion, would have a negative impact on Johnny's off-screen reputation.
So if you're talking about reputation, as you see for yourself, he's put on this evidence to show that his reputation within the community was severely damaged by these statements. But what about damages? What evidence has he put on to show that he was damaged by these statements? Well, again, here's his agent.
What is your understanding of why Mr. Depp lost Pirate 6?
My opinion is that it was related to the accusations that Amber has made.
What is your opinion based on?
Conversations with studios and other executives, both internal and external.
What do you recall Jerry Bruckheimer telling you?
I don't recall the specific conversations, but the nature of it was that the studio was having difficulty employing him.
So, studio having a different time employing him, he's losing movies. That is what the evidence that they've shown that he was damaged by these statements. Again, clear and convincing evidence, you decide. So now we turn to actual malice. So let's look at how actual malice is defined within the jury instructions. Actual malice. If the plaintiff further proved by clear and convincing evidence that the defendant knew the statement was false or made it so recklessly as to amount to a willful disregard of the truth. That is, a high degree of awareness that the statements were probably false. Now, you have to understand this. Generally, the plaintiff would have to prove that the defendant knew the statements were false. Now, how can you do that? How can you prove someone knew it was false? Well, if you can prove the person just made it up out of whole cloth, then in terms of knowing it was false, they had to know it was false because they made it up. So that's where Johnny's going with actual malice. Johnny is essentially saying Amber knew these stories were false because she made them up. If you make up a story and people find out it's made up, then inherently you had to know it's false because the source of information came from you. So simply put, if Amber Heard is making up these allegations, as Johnny Depp's team is making it seem, then obviously she, quote, knew the statements were false, right? Because she made them up. Who else would know they were false other than her if she made them up out of whole cloth? So that's why Johnny is trying to show that each one of these events that happened, that Amber Heard says that she was abused, he's showing that all these people were there and they didn't see anything that she's saying. Matter of fact, they're saying that she wasn't injured, that she was the abuser on a lot of these pieces. And on top of that, because she made them up, she had to know they were false, and that's your actual malice. So, actual malice, has Johnny Depp produced enough evidence where you feel comfortable by clear and convincing evidence that he's proven his case? Now, Johnny Depp's team hasn't closed their case, but this is where we stand after week 3 going into week 4. So at the end of the day, has Johnny Depp shown that this op-ed that calls him an abuser is false? Has he proved all the elements of defamation through clear and convincing evidence? Has he shown that Amber Heard has very low credibility while he has great credibility? What do you think? How would you vote after hearing Depp's case? Now, I do have to say 2 things. Number 1, this video was only looking at Johnny Depp's arguments and the evidence Johnny Depp put forward because he, as the plaintiff, has the burden of proof. When Amber Heard puts on her case, we're going to do the same thing and evaluate whether she has effectively defeated Johnny Depp's claims or given the jury enough to say, well, you know, I believe her versus him. So understand, this video is just looking at what Johnny Depp's team has put forward, what Johnny Depp's team's narrative is, and whether we as a jury can feel that he's shown us enough through clear and convincing evidence that he is likely to win this action. Now, this is before we've heard the other side. Now, let me know if you like this video, if you like the detail, if you like us going through the law in this methodical way, because again, I know a lot of people are just, giving you their opinions, But this is an interesting part where we can actually look at the law and see how it actually works out behind the scenes. Now, I gotta say one last thing before I get out of here. Now, if you've watched the video all the way to this end and you haven't subscribed, come on, you're killing me. Look at this slide. Look at how much you've probably learned about defamation in Virginia and what Johnny Depp has to prove just in this video. So I'd appreciate if you go down there. If that subscriber button is red, click it, let it go gray, and check out some of this other great content. My name is Nate the Lawyer, and I'm gonna see you next time. Peace.